We'll bring you the latest news headlines. After that, we'll look at stories occupying the front and back pages of the newspaper. And straight away, let's get into the groove. Now, the Electoral Commission says it cannot include the existing voter ID as proof of eligibility in the compilation of a new voter's roll, as it would ultimately undermine its credibility. The Electoral Commission argues some voters fraudulently acquired the IDs, and its inclusion ultimately will defeat the whole idea of sanitizing the register. The opposition National Democratic Congress has alleged the exclusion of the existing IDs is part of a grand scheme by the election management body to rig the 2020 general elections in favor of the governing New Patriotic Party. Acting Director of Public Affairs at the Electoral Commission, Sylvia Ano, tells Joy News that the NDC boycotted an IPAC meeting scheduled to communicate its decision to exclude the existing ID.
We are not scheming because, let me tell you, you're talking about the ID card.
Right, the
existing voter ID. That's right. What we should be talking about.
Sure.
Now, you have, there's a perception, or there's a school of thought that some people, you know, are having ID cards and some way somehow they were able to register because they said they were Ghanaians.
Okay.
Now we want to clean the voters register. It's been there for some time now. You need to clean the voters register thoroughly, you know, and there is a need to make sure that you do not migrate the kind of problems, you know, in the old register onto the new system. Therefore, when you're coming, you're asked to get out of the classroom and you are coming back, the teacher has to search your pockets and make sure that you are not carrying anything, you know, that will affect the credibility of an exams. I'm just giving you a scenario.
Right.
Yeah. So that if we are saying that some way somehow some people were able to beat the system and then go through with the ID card, and you are having a new system, you want to have a new voters register, or you want to replace the old voters register, must you migrate the kind of problem that you had in the old system onto the new system? And apart from that, all the political parties are going to be given the opportunity to be at the registration centers so that your party agent is there. You have the challenge system where if anybody came to the registration center and the person was not qualified, you have the right to challenge the person. So all these things are there. It's not like we're going to segregate, you know, some people or some centers and say that, no, party A or party B, you don't have the right to.
But that wasn't the earlier position of the Electoral Commission, and that has been the argument of the political parties opposing this decision.
You see,
that earlier you told them that we're going to include the voters register, the existing voters ID card, as part of the requirement for the new registration.
Let me say that whatever happened at the initial stages was not cast in stone and iron. It was dialogue, purely dialogue. And that's the reason we keep on inviting the political parties, you know, to come over. Say that if there is any suggestion, they will put it up. But that doesn't mean that the Electoral Commission will take all the suggestions.
But the EC communicates to the political parties after realizing that perhaps the existing voters ID card, if it becomes part of the requirement for the upcoming registration exercise, could affect the credibility of the electoral roll. Were they informed duly?
Let me say that decisions, that we have so many divergent views.
Were they informed?
Oh yeah, the political parties. The political parties at the last IPAC meeting were informed that they talked about the fact that there's a CI before Parliament, and these are the details. We did communicate with the political parties.
Can you produce minutes of this meeting for the purposes of transparency and accountability?
There are procedures. If the Commission so decides to do that, so be it.
Away from electoral issues, former chief executive for the GNPC, that's the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Alex Mould, has been making a strong case why he is one of the best qualified to be the running mate of flag bearer John Dramani Mahama. Mr. Mahama is yet to name his running mate for the 2020 elections, and Mr. Moult is one of those whose names have been mentioned as a likely running mate. Speaking on PM Express last night, Mr. Moult confirmed he's interested in the position. He says he has the trust of former President John Dramani Mahama and has paid his dues to the NDC.
I am working with my party, and any position my party wants me to help them in, I am prepared to do that. I've worked with them from the transition team in 2009 to working at the Ministry of Energy with the minister, at NPA, at GMPC. I am working with the party for us to develop our structures, develop the organization, make it more fit for purpose and ready for the election. And that is what my job is. So any role that the party deems based on my skill set and my background, I am prepared to assist in it.
Including the vice presidential slot?
Including the vice presidential, yes.
Okay. So if you are nominated, John Mahama does so, this is something that you embrace?
Well, I think there's a process that goes. The flag bearer has to work with the functional executive of the party in consultation with the elders, come up with the criteria and choose it. And yes, if they call me and nominate me, and I pass the criteria, I definitely will accept.
Do you think you pass? Are you a match for Dr. Bawumia?
Am I a match?
Yes.
In what way? Are we competing?
Yes. If you want to become the vice president, if your party wins and selects you, you're going to clearly in that position. He's your match. If you get a nod.
Yeah, but I mean, his job
in terms of his skill set.
What skill set?
And his expertise. That's an economist par excellence, I may say.
I see.
Are you a match for him?
It's about your ability to deliver. Yeah. So it's not only on politics, it's your ability to deliver.
And
if you're talking about the economy, of course I can deliver on the economy. If you're talking about energy, I can deliver on energy. If you're talking about any area, whether it's trade, whether it's industry, whether it's infrastructure, because I have worked in these areas before. This is not, something, this is not, would I be able to do it? I have a pedigree that shares exactly what I have done in the past.
And away from politics, she came into contact with a patient who later tested positive for coronavirus at the Bolgatanga Regional Hospital back in March this year. After exhibiting symptoms of the disease days after, the head of the neonatal intensive care unit of the hospital, Dr. Gillian Bogi, had to be airlifted to the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital for critical care. 20 days after hospitalization, she is now tested negative twice and subsequently discharged. Dr. Bogi has been sharing her near-death experience exclusively with Komladom.
The publication of the new recovered numbers attracted comments from some persons who were surprised about the high recovery numbers of over 500. A special aide to former President John Mahama, Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, called for the numbers to be put to strict proof. Minority Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhassan Suhini, said the recoveries are a Ramadan miracle. But speaking on Beyond the Lockdown, Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Bernard Okuboy, stated the patients did not recover in one day.
So, if you have 1,000 folks, they are all walking around. They've had their first test, which is negative. All they are doing is that we are waiting to be tagged. Okay. Not that they have a problem, but they want to fit a criteria, which is that the second test must be negative. And so, really, you can have 2,000 who are declared recovered. All it means is that their results went through Noguchi or the other labs, and the results are in. So it is not the day they declare the results that they were recovered, they actually recovered, but they were just meeting a criteria.
An article by fact-checking website AFP challenged claims that Ghana has administered more COVID-19 tests than any other country in Africa. According to AFP, available statistics they found indicate Ghana comes behind South Africa and at least 2 other African countries. Dr. Okuboy stated Ghana is part of the top.
Well, we are gone greatly into that story, and that story is about numbers of recoveries and then related issues of tests that had been done, you know, in Africa, especially based on comments by the president about how far the country has done in relation to other countries on the continent, and this had been corrected, or perhaps also put out there by AFP, a French news agency. Well, we will now have to bring our story about Dr. Bogie, who has now been declared negative and recovered from coronavirus, and sharing her experience with Komlado.
I felt I couldn't breathe very well, especially when I had coughed for a very long time. I felt I couldn't breathe very well. So I decided to check my SpO2, and it was ranging between 65 to 70% of oxygen. So initially they nebulized me, and then I was put on intranasal oxygen. The ambulance came, took me to the airstrip, and then I was airlifted to Tamale, where another flight was ready with the team waiting for me. And then I was brought to Kotoka, where there was another ambulance waiting for me. And I was brought to the medical ICU, Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Wow. Do you remember anything that happened to you when you got to the ICU, medical ICU at Kolebu?
Yes, I do remember. One thing I didn't tell you was when I started desaturating, I started writing down messages from my family. I started videoing myself, because at a point in time I gave up. I knew I have the COVID, but it was like nobody believed I had the COVID, and anything could happen at any time. So I started writing messages, and I started videoing myself, what I was going through, and then in my diary.
If you say anything could happen, you thought you were going to die? Yes,
I actually thought I was going to die. Yeah, that was what was running through. So I would just sit down and then ask myself, so what next? Then I would just say, Lord, may your will be done. That was just what was running through my head. And then they kept on monitoring. So they would come in at 6, they would come in at 10 a.m., 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and then 10 p.m. In all, I managed to get all the staffs that attended to me. 33 staffs attended to me in the medical ICU. 33, including nurses and then doctors, 33 staffs. So I was alone in there, and I started thinking, okay, so what next? All this while, my husband would call to see how I was doing. So when I told him my test results was in and I was actually positive for COVID, he was like, do you know something? Are you still on oxygen? I said, no, the oxygen has been taken. He said, yes, that's just it. You would make it, you would pull through. God was in control and everything was going to be okay. And from the way he spoke, I could feel, I know him, I could feel he was crying, but he never, I would always see him on video when he's talking. But this particular day, he was hiding his face, and then his voice was a bit shaky.
He didn't want you to see that.
Yes, but he kept on encouraging me and telling me that everything was going to be okay, everything was going to be fine. Yeah, so I spent 8 days in the medical ICU, and then later on, I was moved to fevers unit, where I spent 12 days. Then the most interesting thing I experienced during my recovery was the fact that most of the mothers whose kids passed through the newborn care unit, I don't know, one way or the other,
they got to know.
They got to know that Dr. Bogie was not around and was sick and was actually having this condition. So they would call, they would call, they would call. When I don't pick, they would send me messages, and some of them went a step further by recording some of the babies trying to crawl, especially the preterm babies who went through kangaroo and were making it now, trying.
Now let's move to the Upper West region next. Member of Parliament for Jirapa, Dr. Francis Dakura, says the long-term solution to the fight against coronavirus is to continuously educate the public. He opines that though the donation of protective equipment and assorted items helps in many ways in the fight against the disease, educating people on the need to observe the needed protocols is a more long-term measure to contain the spread of the disease. Correspondent Rafiq Salam now reports from Jirapa.
Dr. Francis Bawana Dakura stated that the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic is a serious one which should not be toyed or played politics with.
You see, the coronavirus disease is not something that we should want to make photo shopping about or politics. It's a very serious and deadly disease. It's not something that we should use to make politics, put pictures on vinegar buckets and then disappear. So I have a long-term view and vision about how we will fight this disease together.
Though he believed that the donation of personal protective equipment and assorted items will help in the fight against the deadly disease, he is however of the opinion that public education is a long-term solution to containing the spread of the virus. As a result of that, the Jirapa Member of Parliament has launched a COVID-19 support team comprising of 10 members.
10 members from Jirapa here, and each person comes from a zone. This 10-member COVID-19 support team will be trained. There will be a workshop here in the next 2 weeks, organized by the Municipal Health Director. And when they train them, then we'll ask them to go back to their zones and also get about 5 people to educate people. So it will be an ongoing thing. They'll be educating people. I'll be resourcing them. The central team, I'll give them our own private vehicle. You will see it from time to time. It will be having COVID-19 support team. It will go around to see how the zonal team they've set up are working. This is the only way we can deal with the disease or contain it.
Dr. Francis Bawana Dakura donated 10 infrared thermometers, 10,000 milligram hand sanitizers to health facilities in the Jirapa municipality. Jirapa Municipal Director of Health Services, Florence Ansongmane, thanked the Jirapa Member of Parliament for the kind gesture, urging others to follow his example by coming to the aid of the municipality.
Fighting meningitis and COVID-19 is not a one-man thing. Ghana Health Service alone cannot do it. We need a concerted effort. And so he's playing his part. We hope that the other collaborators, the communities, everybody, we can do all the education. But if the community members are not adhering to it, it will lead us zero.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam, Jirapa.
And we're right here in our Kukumemle studios, and that's it for the news. But remember, we have a great conversation, and it's about how schools should reopen, because all of us, well, many of us, majority of us have children. How do they go back to school? Do we have that realization that school needs to reopen? How do we hope to cope with that situation? More so, how does the Ghana Education Service intends going about all this? You know, yesterday we spoke to the Ghana National Association of Teachers, the Concerned Teachers Association, relevant stakeholders in education. Now we're speaking to the foremost body going to do all this, the Ghana Education Service. Good morning to you, Justice Awute. You work with the University of Ghana and your beautiful wife, Cecilia, as well, and also Elom Ashiagbo. Well, you also teach at the Vakpo Senior High School. You should watch this because you're also going to be roped in all this. We're taking a break. We'll be right back with the newspapers.
Hi, very good morning to you wherever you are. I'm Benedict Owusu. Time to update you with what's going on in the world of sport. And we'll start here from the local scene. And former Ghana FA Vice President Fred Papo insists the argument about whether the Ghana League should return or not should be based on facts. Now, remember, the German Bundesliga restarted last weekend. Many countries are watching keenly to see if they can also follow suit. Now, Fred Papo believes a lot of things should be considered in our case to get the game back.
If we want to go the German way, we must test the people like they did, we must monitor the people like they did, we must have facilities in place, we must get counseling, all other things in place. If we are we able to do that? Can we do that? Do we have the capacity to do that? Those are questions to ask. Fine, if you play behind closed doors, generally it means you are protecting the fans from getting infected or spreading infection. That is fine, that is acceptable. So definitely, there are serious things that we would have to study critically. We need a lot of very good impartial discussion with a lot of expert input before we can take decisions around the resumption of the league, the nature and the form of the league and things like that. And I'm sure, I hope the FA leadership will create that an opportunity for people to dialogue and bring ideas so that we'll find the best way of going about our league in the midst of COVID-19 and then even beyond.
Now, more local news, and Black Stars coach CK Akono has said the mentality and attitude to succeed as head of the national team. This is according to former player Gordon Atram. Now, CK actually replaced Coach Appiah, whose contract was not extended by the Ghana FA after it expired at the end of last year. Now, he's been tasked to win the Next Nations Cup and also qualify the team to the FIFA World Cup. Atram, who is now the assistant coach of the Black Stars B, believes CK can do it.
I would like to congratulate my senior coach, Coach CK Akono, for this appointing aspect of a Black Star coach. I want to urge him that he got what it takes to do the job. He should stay focused, determine very well, and whatever that he feels that it will help him as a head coach, he must go all out and do it. He's the coach. He's the man. He can turn things upside down. He can do it. He should believe that he can do it. And I believe that he can do it because he has been there. He has been there. The mentality in Germany is very big in football. It's very big in football. So I want to urge my senior man that he should go all out in whatever that you are doing. With prayers, we are behind him and he will succeed.
The energetic Gordon Atram speaking on CK Akono there.
Well, please make sure you get interactive. And right now we're on stream, just in case you have to walk out of home and get to the office or any other destination this morning. Get interactive. We are on the go. Facebook, we're live there. Joy News on TV. Go search for that page. Not only following it, but also clicking the notification buttons. You can also do same for our Twitter handle at Joy News on TV. We're also live on Joy News TV, our official YouTube channel. And we do have easy Israel Live. I'm trying to do my work. Israel Live. Israel Live. Israel Live is on stream. Israel Live. And then Joseph Akable also has a voice like me, so I can rub shoulders with him. Small boy. Israel Live. And Mama V, of course, is here. Charlie, the two of you. Joseph, the paint in your plate, what color is that?
Mama V will answer that.
Okay. I'm not good with colors.
Where is that coming from? Listen, a very good Tuesday morning to all of you. Don't mind Roland, Joseph Akable, my son.
I'm not minding him at all.
Joseph,
all right, guys.
Joseph is your son.
Yes, Joseph is my son.
Joseph can swallow you.
To answer the question about the color in Akable's room, I think it's lilac.
Lilac. Yeah, I would lilac. I would have said move and I would be Ashama Boga Chalano gave him. Anyway, how did the two of you do overnight? Did you sleep well? Israel always looks
I did. I did.
Joseph, were you reading?
A bit, but I had to sleep at some point because I had to wake up early for this. So.
Right. Okay, Mama, please.
All right, I'm going to take us through the Daily Graphic and the Ghanaian Times newspaper. AZ is going to do the BNFT and the Daily Guide. Joseph Akable has got the Dispatch and the Finer. Roland, what do you have?
I do have the rest of the papers they are not doing. And what are the two of you doing?
Okay, I didn't ask you. Let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper. Straight up, front page of the Graphic It's got a very smiley picture of Mr. Kingsley Agyeman, his Registrar of Scholarships. Reason? Well, just check out the headline. 29,000 students receive 40 million Ghana cedis government scholarship. Also, access to water still challenged to many. 3-year-old abused boy discharged from hospital. That's a story that we've extensively carried. Through the hard work of our colleague in Kumasi, Erastus Asari Donko. President launches stimulus package today. It's also another headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic in the center spread. Well, school proprietors must dialogue with parents. Should not impose fees. School proprietors must dialogue with parents, should not impose fees. As a Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Yao Osei Edichum, who's urging private school operators to dialogue with parents and guardians before arriving at decisions that affect the smooth administration of the schools. And that reminds me of a conversation that we have on the AM show. Well, is the Ghana Education Service inviting stakeholders to bring on board strategies should the president announce the lifting of the restrictions on schools, which means schools are back. What is going to happen? They've asked for strategies, but they're here in the studio because a lot of parents have been sharing their views with us. So we'll bring that conversation. Please don't miss it if you're parents, particularly if you have a child in any of the public institutions. That conversation is really important. Chief of Staff donate to hospitals at Riamwase. That's also in the center spread. We don't operate Momo accounts. Registrar General's department says it does not operate a mobile money account into which businesses pay their filing and renewal fees. It has therefore advised the business community and the general public to ignore any call directing them to pay their filing, renewal and registration fees into a Momo accounts. On the back page of the graphic, father arrested for allegedly maiming 10-year-old son. And also West Assembly enforces wearing of nose mask. It talks about the measures, the social distancing challenge, which, for instance, it says, while it was relatively easier to enforce the safety protocols within the business districts, the challenge was getting people to observe them in their individual homes, particularly with social distancing. So West is where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my...
Kuntunse. Are you sure? I thought it was near in Sawam, Eastern region.
Listen,
Gan.
I'm saying that
I know you live in
I am under that assembly. However, my property is in the Eastern region.
So it's
registered in the Eastern. So,
are you sure you shouldn't be part of the people categorized by Dr. Baumia years ago to be belonging to another country? Are you sure you are fit for purpose to be in the next register?
I'm a very special person. I can be divided into two. So, half is here, half is there. That's the beauty of it. Right. That's it for the Daily Graphic.
All right.
All right, who's picking up from there?
Israel.
All right, so I'll go to the Business and Financial Times. It says COVID-19 speeds up cash light agenda as interoperability sees 31% rise in March. Lack of finance, obsolete equipment undermining cashew processing. And I have no intention of protecting Facebook. So, and on the page 2, to save companies, whistleblowing department should be mandatory. That's KPMG saying that. And it says, move can avert future costly financial sector cleanup services. Scenario. And Cargill advances child protection efforts in global cocoa sector. And on the back page of the BNFT, ICOMS ready to take off after a successful simulation at the Tema port. New Crystal Health Services secures capital injection of about $5.7 million. And that's okay. And the Daily Guide, we'll move on to the Daily Guide now. NDC fights MPP over killing plot. And pressure on Mahama to check AIDS. Tall worker kills security guard. That's unfortunate. Health Minister fights NDC over abandoned hospital projects. UTAG makes input into varsity bill. And that's for the Daily Guide. That's all I have now.
We can do the front page of the Daily Dispatch, and that's what they find out now. The Daily Dispatch front page says mobility in Greater Accra declined at 60% during lockdown. That's according to the Ghana Statistical Service. And 94,000 private school teachers lost jobs due to COVID-19. And Ghanaians, please read about the root causes of the conflict in Ivory Coast. That's an advice coming from the Daily Dispatch. The back page has the story about the mobility in Greater Accra. It also says coronavirus, 10 out of 33 medicine we submitted accepted. That's according to the herbal medicine practitioners. And coronavirus, still on coronavirus, infect and heal yourself if you trust your medicines. That's Benepsin to the herbalist there. We can do the front page of the Finder newspaper now. It says COVID-19 crashes, road crashes. 738 killed, a drop of 13.07% between January and April 2020. And EC discussed amendments at IPAC meeting boycotted by NDC. That's according to John Bodu. And Auditor General rejects request for payment of 29.7 million salary arrears to former MPs. Also on the front page. The back page has the EC story. It also has a story about Eslosu Ekufu donating to COVID-19, some items to assume. And finally, the story about Wissam Al-Munthiri replacing retiring Kweku Awatri as Talo MD. So those are the front pages of the Finder and the Daily Dispatch newspapers.
It's interesting. What's attributed to John Boyd was actually said on this show yesterday. So if you missed it, you want to hear everything that he had to say, including the fact that it was when the NDC boycotted that particular IPAC meeting, that's when those amendments were made. Just go back to myjoyonline.com and do a playback of some of the videos. Before Roland comes in, let me just quickly come through with the Ghanaian Times. Front page of the Times, 1,089 foreigners arrested, repatriated over illegal entry into Ghana. Car dealer granted 85,000 Ghana cedis bail over fraud. President launches 600 million Ghana cedis COVID-19 alleviation program today. Ghost names busted on 21 MDA's payroll as state loses 467.6 million Ghana cedis, according to the Auditor General. On the back page, COVID-19 National Trust Fund receives support from 4 institutions. And Zoomlion disinfects 86 senior high schools in Northern, Northeast, and Savannah regions. Yesterday, we know they carried an extensive exercise in the Western region with the various police posts in that region. Roland?
Well, we only have the last paper. The Daily Statesman. It says, stop crying wolf after boycotting IPAC. JB tells NDC. And, of course, quoted from the show on Monday, the AM show on Monday, as the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party made his appearance in that discussion. Also occupying the front page of the Daily Statesman, government spends 40 million Ghana cedis on local tertiary scholarship. Has an attached picture of the Minister of Education. Innate indecision at play. Mahama running mate list gets longer with Tekbe now in the lead, and the Daily Statesman is increasing the running mate list for the NDC flag bearer. Has here pictures of one Leslie Mensah Tamaklo, Kwame Wadako, Seth Tekbe. The 3 of them occupying the front page. I'm done. I am done. I am done. All right.
I wanted us to look at the stimulus package that's going to be launched by the president today. And I'm just wondering, of course, 600 million Ghana cedis will not be enough to sort out all persons who are in distress because of the times that we find ourselves in. So, you know, we shouldn't all be looking at that 600 million Ghana cedis. Izzy?
Yeah, we can't all be looking at the 600 million cedis because, like you said, there's not enough to support everybody. Incidentally, I had a conversation with Dr. Daniel Sedo a couple of weeks back, and he was of the opinion that he didn't think that the 600 million cedis should just be giving out to any company at all. He feels that, or organization at all, he feels that we should discriminate. And here's how he suggests we should discriminate. He says we should give it to companies that, no, we shouldn't give it to failing companies. We should give it to companies that can actually do a lot more business, the companies that are thriving, give it to them, they're going to produce more or do a whole lot better. They're going to generate revenue. They're going to put the revenue back into the economy, rather than giving it to businesses that are seen to be collapsing, almost going down. If you give them those monies, they're not going to really churn out anything. If their businesses are failing, if you give them more money, you're giving them more money just to keep them afloat. But if you give the money to the companies that are doing well, or seem to be doing well within this COVID environment, then they're going to make a lot more money, generate a lot more revenue, and then they can support the economy. I think it's a very interesting way to look at things. I don't know how government intends to go about it, but yeah, I think it's something that's worth considering.
I think generally for businesses to be able to get access to capital, whether in recession periods or times when the economy is contracting, just like we found elsewhere, it's also based on investigations that are undertaken based on the books that you present. So you present your financial statement and your P&L account statement would then determine whether you're profitable or you have a chance, because you're going down under, and also because of your past record, maybe a year or 2 or 3 before, or over a 5-year period, you will be in the best position to resuscitate yourself. Otherwise, then it becomes business as usual. The second thing is about the disbursement. How we're doing the disbursement. How have we identified which businesses and who qualifies, which of these businesses have certain shareholders, and then the right sort of management, and then shareholding that could resuscitate these businesses. Otherwise, we're just putting money back into a consumption pattern that ultimately is not going to benefit us in the medium to long term. But, well, we'll see how it goes.
All right, Roland, let me just give an example that I think would help make this a lot clearer. For instance, which are the businesses that are doing well around this time? We're looking at companies producing PPEs, companies producing sanitizers. So if you give them those monies, now they're going to produce more PPEs, they're going to produce more sanitizers, more PPEs and sanitizers that actually could be exported as well. And then they can bring in more revenue. If you give it to a salon, because the salon says, I have employees who, because there's no business, I have to sack. And then he said, okay, they'll give me some money to support my staff. If you give them the money, they'll take the money and you're not going to do any more business because people are really unwilling to go to the salons. So why don't you give it to those producing the PPEs? They're making good business. And then you can boost their businesses, promote their businesses. They can export, bring in more revenue, and then I mean, if they're supposed to pay back the stimulus money, they can pay back.
So essentially, just watch those who are collapsing collapse.
If you had a lot more money, then you want to take care of everybody. But if in the situation where you don't have a lot, I mean, that much money. I mean, America has a lot of money, and so they can give everybody. But we don't have that kind of money.
Joseph, what's your take on this?
Well, I think Israel's point is a reality we need to accept, but we also need to leave room for some businesses who may want to take advantage of the situation to turn things around, because necessity, as has been said time and again, is the mother of all inventions. And so I'm looking out for the governing board who will be administering these funds to also leave room for individuals who may be in a sector that has to do with struggling businesses, but yet they have some form of proposal that looks at an innovative way of still finding their customers and delivering services. And so, I mean, there are others who may want to still make some money around this period because there is markets for them. And so even though a lot of people may not be going to the salons, if you have a salon that runs an ad or perhaps publishes information that suggests that it has a means of ensuring that it provides services for you in a manner that does not expose you to risk, you are more inclined to showing up in those areas than the others. And so I am for, of course, administering it in a manner that ensures that we go for those who are likely to survive, but we should also look out for individuals who can be innovative around this period as well, because there's markets for everyone. Our lifestyle has not changed, and now that we are being told to learn to live with the virus, obviously the things that we used to do we'll now look for those who can serve us in a better way. We are going to go out for them.
You know, I know
Joseph, you look like one of those who hasn't been to the barbering salon, you know.
Yeah. It sure does.
It's been very tough for me. It's been very tough, and I can't find someone that I can trust. Is
it about trust?
That's why the salons. That's why the salons are not making any money.
I'll give you a strategy.
I can see the socialist in you, Joseph.
I'll give you a strategy. But I just also wanted to say, just real quick on that before we move to other subjects, that there are some businesses who are not necessarily looking for huge monies, but they pay some of these statutory, deductions. So people are paying SNITs when they're really not working, when they're not making any money, but they have to pay for their workers. You talked about having innovative ways. People can also make suggestions. If I can get a relief for about some 3 months, on not paying some of these things, it will go a long way to helping other businesses who may not necessarily be able to get some of the 600 million, I'm thinking.
Yeah, especially at the time where our estimates already indicate that we are not going to meet our revenue shortfalls anyways. And so those are all means that the government can spend money without necessarily actually giving money out, but just giving relief to people so that at least the business can be running at a loss, but will be able to survive for the next 2-3 months at least, and maybe when things get back to normal, they can get back to their best days.
Okay. There's a story on the front page, and I know it's occupied the news day the whole of yesterday. It's about the number of teachers in private schools who have lost their jobs, 94,000 of them, and speaks broadly to the related issue about how perhaps we also need to look at how we can resuscitate that sector, because if you look at what the contribution of these private schools do by way of complementing education, but also improving the state of mind of young people, then I think we need to look in that sector. And many of us have children who go to private schools, and ultimately it will mean that they are extinction. There are top private schools, and there are those in the middle, and there are those at the bottom level. You
know, the controversial issue here is, did it contribute to the National COVID Fund with a certain amount of money?
Is that a criteria?
No, I'm just, because it always comes up. Because they donated a certain amount of money. But interestingly, they couldn't pay their workers.
Yeah, 50,000, just 50,000.
Well, maybe that was a token.
Well, I mean, they had to come in to support. I mean, because everybody else was supporting. 50,000, yeah. But
if you don't have, must you?
Well, you cannot. Well, they probably hoped that things were going to turn around a lot faster, except it hasn't. So maybe. But yes, these businesses, these private schools are also businesses, and they're being very rational. They're looking at their situation and telling themselves, look, I don't have people coming in to pay fees. And this is the fees that I use to pay my teachers. So if I'm not getting the fees in, then clearly I can't keep the teachers on my payroll. So they are being rational. But again, if we found ourselves in a situation where, an ideal situation where the government could come in and support, yes, I would say government should come in and pay all the teachers, pay all the private teachers to keep them going. But do we have the funds to do that? So that's a challenge. So for those schools, I guess they're just waiting. If things get back to normal and schools resume, then they can keep the teachers on. For now, I think they're going to keep just a few teachers so they can do their online.
How soon are you willing to take your children back to school, Israel?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
See?
Not even at the end of the month, middle of June. You don't have any date in mind.
No, we just need to see how things progress.
That's it.
If it gets to a point where we feel that, well, things have gotten a lot better, or we are introducing some measures that can help. Social distancing. If we're going to have, if there are 20 people in a classroom and you're going to split it and take it down to 10 people in a classroom, these are things we could consider.
Now, it's interesting. You're talking about a private school.
What about Joseph?
Imagine a public school with over 70 children in the class. How do you do social distancing?
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Unless you take the kids out of the classroom and under trees.
And Joseph, what would you advise?
I think governments must pay close attention to their private schools, and I'm saying that because they shouldn't miss the fact that there are some schools that may take advantage of the situation and claim to be struggling because of COVID-19 and be sending students home. Because I've heard stories from some schools where, the term was still in session when the whole COVID-19 thing started. And so they had already taken school fees they were supposed to take already, which is what they rely on to pay teachers. And so in actual sense, their source of revenue has actually not gone down. It's a bit about a new term that is coming in that they may have a reason for wanting to lay off teachers. So I know some schools who are providing the same services, they are using the same staff, they've not laid anyone off, because what has reduced has to do with more or less operational costs at the school. Aside from that, the students are paying fees, they are getting money to be able to pay the teachers as well. And so we should pay attention to those who are laying off people as to whether indeed there's a basis to do that in the first place. If we don't do that, then you may have a situation where people just take advantage and send people home, when, as usual, they're actually taking the exact fees that they are supposed to be taking, and they need the same number of teachers, but they are simply not making use of these teachers.
Absolutely.
But aside from those ones who may be isolated instances, I think generally they are also struggling as well. We must admit that the last few months have been very tough times because no one could predict. But going forward, there should be dialogue at least between the schools. Government should also come in. All these are agencies, identifiable groups that you can easily assist in terms of the taxes that we require of them around some of these times. That is a little that the states can do for them. When they are not making money, there's no point in taxing them at this point.
Let's
simply letting them work and paying the state for nothing, really.
Let's spend another minute on myjoyonline.com real quick. Let's see what...
Before then, Mamabi, I just wanted to point this out to Joseph. You talked about the previous term and the fact that they're taking fees for the previous term. It turns out, however, that when you are charging fees, some parents, in fact, a significant number of parents actually don't pay their fees until the end of the term. So at the time the pandemic hit, the people who should have paid their fees probably had not paid their fees, and so the schools were already struggling and probably had gone to take loans just to keep them going until the end of the term.
Israel, so this is the behavior you've been exhibiting as a parent.
Let's do myjoyonline.com real quick. Before we go, let's just run through what's making headlines here. Here we go. I can match Baumia if I'm chosen as Mahama's running mate. That's Alex Mould on PM Express with Evans Mensah last night. 3 shot dead by armed robbers at, is it Dadia Sena Ashanti? Is it? Apologies if I got that wrong. Doctor who recovered from COVID-19 shares near that experience exclusively with Joy News. John Mahama, trust me, Alex Mould justifies NDC running mate ambitions. Autopsy reports reveals some people died of COVID-19 while others died with it. New public debt alarming. Each Ghanaian owes 7,800 Ghana cedis, according to Forthing. Ghana loses over almost 600 million
Don't forget the apple.
cedis to ghost workers on MDA's payroll. Okay, I shouldn't forget apple. Here's the apple. Apple tree in Riamwase turns out to be species of what? Fake.
Yeah, we thought we had the modern day Middle Eastern or South African apple, and apparently we're taken to the fig trees in Bethlehem and Nazareth. Charlie, serious, the only apple we were ever going to get in Ghana. I don't know what the two of you think about it. And Israel, I've been told that you are not alone. Apparently all of us pay our school fees late. But about the fig tree, that's supposed to have been apple. Joseph, what do you think about it?
I read a story that the scientist who concluded it was a fig tree didn't go to the tree actually. Is that true?
No, I think he was around the tree because I saw Kwesi Deborah post.
I think we should ask Kwesi Deborah. He's been on top of this.
I think you should ask Kwesi
and Hashmin as well.
The fruit was sent to the scientist.
Actually, Israel, I see some leaves behind you. Are you sure it's not a fig tree?
No, it's not a fig tree. It isn't.
We need somebody to bring us our first apple.
A Bongavilla or what?
Okay, guys.
I need to find out.
We have to wrap up.
She knows these.
Yeah.
We have to wrap up. I've got the bar coming up later this morning. So if you bought if Joseph, you gave me money to buy property and I put my name on it, as in on the documents, would I still be the owner or you will be the owner? Can I get my property back?
Like you, who paid for it? You paid?
So he sponsored, he paid. And I was supposed to buy the house. I bought the house, but I put my name on it.
And why would you want to put your name on something you are buying with my money?
But I own it technically.
Oh, Okay.
So I guess you have some answers for us.
I do. It's a 1974 judgment, and I thought we would share.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, today is your birthday, Evelyn Ajimai. You're a physician assistant at the St. Dominic's Hospital, Akwitia, and it's from Fifi Delson of the National Health Insurance Authority. Have a blessed birthday. Fifi says that lunch is on him.
Oh, Roland. Okay.
No, Fifi. Okay.
Roland,
Yes.
Roland, are you sure it's that person's birthday?
Yes.
Knowing that, I mean, you said my wife's birthday was a couple of last week.
I thought it was Facebook. Fake news, sorry. Israel, forgive me. This behavior must stop, Israel.
All right. Good morning to you, Mr. Robert Coleman. We've got that education conversation coming up on strategies to reopen public schools. The Ghana Education Service is on our show right after sports. Make a date. Don't miss it. Let's all contribute. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. All the best working from home.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
You too.
All right. Sports is right after this. All right. So today I'm sharing a judgment from 1974. Hello and welcome to the bar. This week I'm sharing with you a judgment involving a husband and a wife. Well, they were legally married but separated. The wife made a claim to all 3 houses acquired during the marriage. She claimed that although her name and that of the husband appear on the title, which is the ownership document to the property as joint owners, all the houses were wholly hers. She asked the court to restrain the husband, his servants and agents from interfering with her interests. But how did they get here? Husband and wife So husband and wife were once married under the ordinance. They lived happily around Nima here in Accra until a time where a series of misunderstandings between them caused them to be separated, living in different locations. So this is the wife's side of the story. She accused husband of engaging in extramarital affairs with other women. The issues led the man to drive her out of their matrimonial home. Interestingly, the man claimed that his wife left the house voluntarily. So, after some time, the wife sued the husband. She wanted the court to declare that the matrimonial home in which they lived together with 2 other houses were solely hers and not in co-ownership with the husband. According to the wife, she single-handedly provided the money for the acquisition of the land without the financial support of the husband. Here are some observations that I made. The court described the woman as an astute and successful market woman who combined the work of a housewife and a trader. Her trade involved buying essential commodities and foreign goods from big importers in bulk and selling them to other market women who retail these goods. She also engaged in the retailing on her own at the Makola markets. The husband, on the other side, was engaged in a full-time employment as a clerk at the Public Works Department as a constable. There was no evidence that the husband at any time during the marriage joined his wife in her trading activities. The husband claimed that he provided the initial capital with which the woman was trading. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. If a husband provided trading capital for his wife, does that not make him a partner in trade with the woman? Well, the court thought otherwise. The court actually found that the woman started her trade at a young age when she was living as a maid servant. Testimonies from masons, carpenters, and other workmen showed that even during the construction of the buildings, they always had to wait for the wife to return from the market before they were paid their wages. Also, the husband's salary at the time was found to be insufficient to purchase land at the time and pay for the construction of the buildings. So, although the names of the wife and husband were found on the title, the ownership document, the court held that insofar as the acquisition of the said properties was solely financed by the wife, she was the sole owner, and that the husband does not have the right to deal with the properties in any way. So, my friends, according to this case, the mere appearance of a person's name on a title document to a property may not in itself confer ownership of a property, apart from the case where the person who advances the purchase intended a transfer, same by a gift. So if you're in Ghana and abroad and you've given out sums of money to relatives and friends to acquire properties on your behalf, yet it turns out that those persons you've trusted have caused the title. They have diverted the ownership into their own names. The message this morning is that all is not lost. There are legal remedies available to you. So have hope in the legal system. You could win this case just like this woman who was simply a trader who was an illiterate trading in Makola. And she got her houses back, all intact. That's it for the bar. Watch out for what we'll discuss next on the bar. But up next here on the AM show, we've got a conversation with the Ghana Education Service. We've put a post on Facebook. If you haven't reached us yet, you might want to check out that post and make your comments known there. Calling for strategies. Should the president lift the restrictions and schools have to be back, will you allow your child to go to the classroom? How would you think they would be safe? What kind of strategies will you come up with? It's our conversation. So join us. That's coming up right after this. Well, we're back having another education conversation. We started off with the Ghana National Association of Teachers, remember, yesterday, after we cited that directive calling for strategies from the various education stakeholders on the way forward, just in case the president lifts the ban on gatherings and schools are back. What strategies can the various stakeholders share? So on the back of that, this morning, we have the Ghana Education Service. There's a Deputy Director General in charge of management services, Mr. Anthony Boateng, is here to take all the questions, the follow-up from yesterday's conversation in particular. So good morning to you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Good morning.
According to what we cited, which was not a public notice, by the way, the deadline for submission of strategies was today. Do you have enough? Have people shared?
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning to your esteemed listeners. We have received some, including some information from the teacher unions.
Okay.
So it's an exercise we are undertaking in order to make an informed decision, and so we continue to receive inputs from the stakeholders.
Do you have a strategy yourself as a Ghana Education Service on reopening of schools if this whole ban is lifted?
You see, we in education, we deal with various stakeholders. We have various interest groups, parents, teachers, workers, even the general public. And therefore, in coming up with any strategy, the strategy we adopted was to gather as much information, gather as much ideas as possible for the various stakeholders, put all of them together, and then come up with a strategy that will fit and suit everybody who is a stakeholder in the system. You see, we are dealing with people, one, who have various interests, parents whose children are there, the children themselves, staff who are teachers who will be part of the system, non-teaching staff who will be part of the environment, and therefore you need to make sure that everybody is comfortable, everybody is safe, and everybody can be protected. And therefore their strategy is to look at what does everybody think can be done. So after we've gathered all those ideas together, we will then put them together in the form of a proposal. Should we be asked to reopen schools, then we know what to do.
All right, so we hit the streets after we got hints of this, and I want us to take a listen to what people have got to say. We've also got lots of reactions on Facebook as well. But first, here's what we found on the street.
It depends on the preparation, or it depends on the situation that the government, in fact, the policies that the government will put in place. If the children are to go back to school, I will actually have to evaluate what systems the government has put in place to ensure that my child is safe before I will allow my child to go to school. You know, observing all the necessary protocols, I don't know what system they are going to put in place, because we have to make sure that my child is safe before I allow my child to go back to school.
I wouldn't know who is coming, whether they are safe or not, whether they don't have the virus from their parents. Nobody knows. And it's a scary thing to know. And markets are way small, so they can do without school for some time now. As we are doing now, we've been doing everything on the internet. So I think we'll continue like that.
I think maybe the president knows the best. So that's why he decided for the children to go back to school. I'll allow him to go to school.
Of course, I'll allow my children to go. If there are measures that the president has put in place, social distancing, nose masks, and so on and so forth, I will allow them to go. And besides, I'm also working, so I can also get, since I'm living in the room with the same children, they can get it from me. So if I allow them to go back to school, if they will get, definitely they will get. But if president has put measures, I will allow my children to go to school. Yes, because as they can't keep on being in the house, I can't keep on teaching them. That is a fact. So I will let them go.
No. You see, in Ghana, yeah, right, the people, the schools, for instance, especially government school, see the number of students are in the class. And this junk of students going to school, who knows? The parents having it, bringing it to the children in the class, they are even compatible in the class. One will surely, when someone get in the class, all of them will get. And when they come back home, you the guardian or the parent, you also get it. So it's very bad. So it's start. So even now, the work that we are doing, where is the money that we are going to take them to the school? So we should be at home and let's pray to God that this thing will go and you will be free.
As a mother, I don't think I will allow my children to go back to school after the ban is being lifted, because while the children are in school, even the point is that even the adults, they are not even taking care of their measures well. As in, they are not, you could see in town, there are some people, they are not putting on the nose masks, there are others, they are putting on the nose masks. So how sure are you that even the kids who are not even that matured to be putting on their nose masks all the time, how sure are you that they will really be controlled? And even while they are playing, they can get close to each other at any point in time. So I don't think, I don't think I'll allow my children to go back to school.
This is a sentiment shared by many parents. This is very complicated, Mr. Boateng.
You see, Madam, the truth of the matter, listening to the health officials, is that COVID has come to stay. And therefore, we will be with COVID for some time. So if we are thinking of what infection and others, what it means is that we have closed schools forever. But it cannot be. Definitely, we will have to go back to school. It might be a week, it might be months, it might be even a year. We will have to go back to school with COVID around. Now, what is important is, what do you do to ensure that those children or those members of the public who are engaged with the school system are safe and secure?
But yours, Mr. Boateng, is rather very complicated, unlike the private schools, because you have a class size of sometimes 70.
Yes.
And you actually also have some schools even under trees.
Yes.
You don't have enough infrastructure, essentially. Yes. So if you're social distancing, you're spacing the children, what are the possibilities?
Right. You see, Madam, you see, this is when ideas become important. That is why we do not sit in our office and make a decision, and we are asking for inputs. For example, some of the views we have seen, some of the thoughts that have gone through. For example, people are talking about, do we do shift system? Do we do phased reopening? Phased reopening meaning that some classes will come, some classes will have to wait. Because some classes are not coming, then you can spread out those classes that are coming for the moment. Some people are thinking of shift system. Some will come in the morning, some will come in the afternoon. So you look at your environment, your circumstances, what you have, what the issues are, and how can you deal with them in ensuring. Now, in looking at the issue of, somebody said, of an infection, yes, even now that we are home, what is the guarantee that everybody will not be infected? People are being infected. What is important is that the protocols are observed. So in one of the things I read from one of the people who have made contribution as to the strategies, they were suggesting, for example, that we should have Veronica buckets, we should have hand sanitizers, we should have face masks for every student, every teacher, every non-teaching staff in the environment. How do you ensure that at the school level, you ensure that you keep the distancing? Some people have even suggested that let KG, P1, P2, P3 stay at home for some time. How the system improve, because they are very, very young. They will not even appreciate some of the issues about the protocol. But the more mature one like P4, P5, P6, JHS, senior high schools, they can understand some of these things better, and therefore you can manage them better. These are ideas that we are putting together. Once we all come to a consensus as to the best way out, of course, let me also add that we are also in very, very close contact with the health authorities. Some of the things that we are talking about, we have even engaged them, and they are engaging us on some of the issues that we are raising.
So, you know, we've always moved with the data and the science. Why don't we allow these strategies to be shared solely by the health experts who are in charge of this? After all, this is not something we've experienced before, COVID-19.
Yeah, you see, health will give you the protocols, will give you the indicators, will give you the directions, but you are the operator of the system. You don't expect the nurse, for example, to come to the classroom and be dealing with the children. He might be around to provide some professional guidance on what to do, what not to do, but in terms of who manages the school, who manages the class, it will be the educational worker. So the educational worker also becomes significant. That is why some of these ideas, you see, let me also put on record that, but as I speak here, no decision has been made as to when to reopen schools.
Yes, but should the president come in his next address, because we know the extension goes to the end of May.
Yes.
So if he says, for instance, schools can be back in June, would you be ready? And when I say GS ready to reopen schools?
That is exactly what we are doing now. By collating ideas and views, should the schools go back? What should we do? What do we want to see? How do we manage the environment to make sure that everybody is safe and everybody is secure? And that is what we are soliciting, and we are asking for views and ideas so that we put them together to become the framework within which these schools can operate in a safe and secure environment.
But the GS would have something to share. So, for instance, yesterday when I engaged NATS, for instance, the General Secretary, I got the opinion that they also wanted to hear something from the Ghana Education Service. What do you also have to offer? What are, your strategies as well? What are you throwing out there? Teachers were asking, would we have PPEs? Are you providing us with enough protection by ourselves as you have employed us?
Yeah, you see, that is why, again, let me say that if we felt that what we have is enough, and if we felt that what we have is what should be, we would not have gone out asking for ideas. We have some ideas, we have some concepts in mind, but their strategy is that let's get others to also make inputs. At the end of the day, we come up with something that reflects our thinking, reflects what the other stakeholders also think, so that we come up with a system that everybody is part of, everybody is comfortable to operate within. And then, but you see, let me state here, if we had gone ahead and said, okay, should the president lift the restrictions, schools will reopen on this date, A, B, C, D is what should happen. These are the very institutions that will have come shouting that we as major stakeholders were not consulted. They will have come shouting. So we say, please, should we be asked to reopen schools? What do you want to see? What are your comments? What are your inputs? So that we will create an environment that is safe, that is secure, so that everybody who is part of that system can feel comfortable. Then it also becomes an issue, because you are, I even heard yesterday somebody saying that the letter we wrote is creating fear and panic. I don't understand.
Well, there's context to that, and it was said on this show, mainly because other people saw it.
Yes.
Because other people have seen it, and they may not understand, because it sounded like we're going to go back to the classroom. And it looks like the mindset has not been made yet, because everybody feels like it's not safe to go back to the classroom.
Yeah, you see, probably, I don't know, but who read the letter, but the letter was very clear. I have a copy here. The letter was very, very clear. Should we go back, should we decide to reopen schools, what do you want to see? What are your inputs? Should we decide schools should go back? So I will allow that, because probably some people can misread. I understand that. But the point we are making is that it is for all of us to work together to create an environment in which the student, the teacher, the non-teaching staff, anybody who is part of the school system will feel secure and comfortable when we should go back. And therefore, what we are saying is that let people come up with their views, with their comments, with their inputs. What do you want to see in a school environment that will make it safe and secure for everybody too? So, you see, at the end of the day, let us also not forget that as educationists, the longer these children stay at home, the worse the situation gets. Because in education, if it is long vacation, the child has finished one set of course and is moving to the other, you can afford to let him stay at home for some time. But if the child is cut off in the middle of a program, you build upon. Education is a ladder. You build upon. Once the foundation becomes, let's say, rusty, you can't build upon. And therefore, some of us are also conscious of the fact that we should be very careful we don't let the students stay at home for too long, especially the younger ones.
How much time will be too long? They've stayed home for 2 months.
Yeah, you see, madam, let me say, the fundamental point is that it's about security and health of the children. So if, under the current circumstance, if we should stay at home for 1 year because the environment is not safe, there will be nothing too long, because there will be no, it will not be appropriate to push children to school simply because we want them to go to school and to go and get infested and infected. So what we are saying is that I believe that the president's decision whether the school should go back or not will be well advised. And I think that once he's sure that the environment, based on the advice he received, based on his own analysis of the situation, once he decided the school must go back, I think he's sure that the environment is conducive and better.
Is he also getting contributions from the Ghana Education Service, for instance? Are you also called upon to make contributions in terms of what you think the way forward should be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's the GES thoughts then? Are we ready to go back? Not in terms of, because you've talked about staying home for too long and being rusty. And we're in the middle of it. We haven't finished the academic calendar.
Yes.
So we have to have a way of completing it.
Yes.
So within that context, what do you think?
You see, as I said, we have some ideas, but they are not conclusive. And you know, the danger is that immediately you start giving out what you think, people begin to, they are saying that this and that. So that's why we are being considered. We have our own clear-cut ideas. For example, some of the views that have come, some of the views that I have seen, somebody suggested, for example, why don't you let the final years come to school, prepare, finish, and go? Once the final years finish and go, you create space so that when others come in, then you can spread out. Meanwhile, the final year, for example, the SHS, the senior high school's final years, will need to complete to be able to enter tertiary. It is only when they leave that you can get people to go to Form 1, so that those who are finishing DHS can also fit in. Then you can get class 1 KG people also coming in, and then the system can move. That is somebody's ideas. Somebody think that, look, can we have a system? And in addition to that, we have also engaged WAEC, and we're giving them some options. Should Ghana decide that it is ready to write its final exams, while the other West African countries are not ready? What are the options? We are engaging WAEC on that.
Okay, so what have they put on the table with regards to that?
They have brought some proposals which we are looking at, and therefore it will be premature for me to put it out now. Then we look.
But I'm wondering why we went to them, since they already have a position in terms of exams.
WAEC, what was their position?
Because WAEC issued a statement to put the exam on hold.
They put the exam on hold for the entire West African sub-region
exactly.
because of the outbreak of the pandemic.
Exactly. So I was thinking we will wait for them to be ready.
No, we went to them and said, looking at the environment, looking at the West African sub-region, should, and we use the word should, we Ghana decide that we are ready to go, while the other West African countries are not ready, what are the options? We went to them.
And you say they've shared something, except that you're not going to go on record with it.
They reacted to our proposal, which is available, but we were not ready because we are
Can we avoid the exams? What can't we avoid the exams? Must we necessarily write exams?
No, we need not necessarily write the exam. If by the circumstance we cannot write the exam, other options will have to be explored. And we are not stuck in writing of exams. It depends on how safe, how secure the environment is to facilitate the writing of the exam.
I want us to go to Facebook and pick up some comments on Facebook. When we come back, there's still many angles to explore with this particular conversation. So let's go to Facebook. Let's check out the post that we put on. But may I also ask, are you soliciting views from parents as well? Because you say major stakeholders.
Yes.
We're talking about the education associations, but are parents included?
Yes, they are. You see, let me say before we go there, what we did was we drew up a strategy. First, we wanted to deal with those who are the, let me call the frontline operators, the teachers, the non-teaching staff, through their unions, and the teacher, the three teacher unions, NAT, NAGRAT, CCT Ghana. Then the non-teaching have TEU, Teachers and Educational Workers Union. Then we have CODE, which is the Conference of District Directors of Education. We've dealt with the Regional Directors of Education. We are dealing with CHAS, with the Conference of Heads of Senior High Schools. So these to us, and then APTI is the Association of Principals of the Technical Institutes. So the various groups that are front line in the education enterprise, we want to engage them on one front. Then we will come to the major stakeholders, like the parents, like civil society organizations, like NGOs, like development partners, who also contribute or who also make input into the education delivery system. We also want to engage them. So those are the levels at which we are living.
I didn't hear media.
The media?
Yes.
The media
we should be major stakeholders too.
The media will be part of the civil society organizations, and we will deal with that when we come there.
Okay, we've been embedded there. Let's go to Facebook and let's check out the comments on Facebook. If you haven't contributed, you still can. You can also send us a WhatsApp message. We'll put the number on the screen shortly. Faith Ennis says the teacher unions lack vision and foresight. Okay, can we just skip this comment in particular? And I want to let's just be open and go straight to the point. Let's not accuse anybody in this conversation. Richard Safo says, if we're not careful, there's a breakout in our boarding schools, we'll regret it. It will be more than what happened in the fishing company. That's Richard Safo's contribution.
Can I react to this?
Let me take some more and then we'll come back. Ban Sakwesi says, sure, because we asked, would you send your child back to school if this restriction is lifted? The House is even boring. Those who are saying no are the public teachers. They sit home and get paid, so they think that's all. They have to think about the children too. Assuming they were not paid whilst they stayed at home, then they will see the private school teachers are struggling whilst government teachers are enjoying. I'm sure that's most of them saying no. So this point is well made. Thank you very much for your contribution. Let's see more comments. Do we have? John Fraser says, it's never a wise decision. I'm a teacher and I get worried about the decision considering the condition of our classrooms in my school as a result of free SHS. The first years are packed on benches without even tables, just to talk less about dining hall. All right, so I missed that message, but well made. We'll bring it back. I am told, okay, reopening schools now will spell doom for us until we make a little attempt in improving. Okay, Silas says, the question is, what if the corona pandemic is with us for 7 years or so? Will you allow your ward return to school? What I'm trying to say is that we have to find a way back to our normal life because nobody knows when the coronavirus will go. Prince Nat says if new voters register is possible, sure, student 2 can resume classes. We always have to find a way to bring it in, don't we? Gabriel says there's nothing to worry about. We are tired of sitting home. Other diseases are killing more than coronavirus. It's time for school. Let's stop the banter. Margaret says, as a teacher in Ghana, I will say no. Our classrooms are not safe, especially the senior high schools. Children are talkatives, careless and messy most often. Mami says if GS is going to put all precautionary measures in place in all schools around Ghana, then it's fine. If not, my child will wait for the next academic year. Andrew says, no, I will advise the final year students alone go and adhere to the protocols. That's from Andrew. Benjamin says, most classrooms are already choked. Have you created more rooms for the students to observe the social distancing? Some schools in Europe are back to classes with few students in classrooms. What measures are put for the safety of the students with 50 students in one class? University students must be the first batch to start class. Don says, my problem is about the sitting arrangements, looking at our classrooms and the attendance, because we still have to observe all the protocols put in place to combat the virus. We need to look at a lot of factors before taking such decisions. And I just wanted to also chip in that French schools have recorded 70 coronavirus cases since some of them were allowed to reopen last week. So the things that we are afraid of, those who have opened up are experiencing some of our fears.
You see, madam, the truth of the matter, like I did indicate earlier, corona is not going, from what I'm hearing, is not going anytime soon.
Well, from what the health minister said to us in the last briefing.
So then the indication is that schools are finished, but it can't be. So, like all the issues they have raised, very valid, very legitimate.
And I saw you make notes of specific ones.
Yes, very legitimate, very appropriate concerns raised there. So the issue is, what can we do about them so that the environment can be safer? Somebody talked about what happens if the corona breaks out in a school compound. I'm sure that if we should read tomorrow that Ghanaian schools are reopened and there's corona outbreak, I'm sure the whole country will run amok. And therefore, if there are people who will be willing to stay off, it should be Ghana Education Service, because we'll get much on the bash. And therefore, why would we want to put our head on the table? We will not. Ordinarily, will not. But the issue is that we cannot afford to let the students stay out of school forever. We will, as I said, the schools will have to go back either in weeks, in months, or even in a year. The schools will have to go back. Once the schools are going to go back, we will need to ensure that the environment is safe, the environment is secure, so that everybody can be comfortable. So these are the ideas we are asking for. What do we do to make sure that the environment is secure, the environment is safe, so that everybody can be comfortable, the parent in allowing the child to go to school, the child in going to the school compound. These are the ideas we are soliciting.
Okay.
As I said, we have some ideas. We are continuing with the consultation. We have spoken to the health authorities. We are talking to the examination bodies. We are talking to virtually everybody. So
essentially, you don't want it to be a bottom-down approach. You want everybody's input to be on board.
Exactly.
So let's invite our viewers to join us if you've got a question or a comment or a suggestion. I've got the Deputy Director General, Management Services, Ghana Education Service in the studio. You're welcome to join us with your phone calls, 0302-211-69-102, 0302-211-69-102. Mr. Watson, what would it take to scrap the rest of the term? Because yesterday I was sharing the idea of, we're just going to go into the longer vacation. That would give us a lot of time to even be thinking. So what if we scrap the rest of the term so that we add it to the long vacation, and then we'll have enough time to play with the ideas before the next academic calendar?
Yes, you see, if by the long vacation you are talking about, if the environment is safe and secure for us to go, why not? But if even at that time we are still expressing these concerns and these fears, what can we do?
So are you willing, are you willing, I mean, is the GS open to letting go the rest of the term?
Madam, it is not about willing or not willing. It's about how secure or safe the environment is. If the health authorities continue to say, or if the president continues to direct that the situation is not appropriate for schools to go back, we will not go back.
Let's go to the phone lines. Akosia and Abendao. Akosia is in Wager. Akosia, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, Akosia, thank you for calling. Let's hear your thoughts on this conversation.
I was wondering why we can't get the final year students this pass examinations like other countries, and why we have to wait. Because I don't know, we feel like some final year students feel like nothing is being put in place. They're just waiting, and it's very difficult actually. Yes.
Okay, so you sound like you are involved somehow. Are you a student? Hello, Akosia. Oh, sadly, I lost you. Let me talk to Abendao in BBNE. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Mamazi.
Yes, sir. I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for asking. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the GES leaders, they are showing concerns as well as trying all they can to make sure that students get back to schools to learn, and that is a good idea. But is the tertiary institutions, like the training colleges, the polytechnic, and the universities. As for them, with this COVID-19 protocols, I'm sure they can manage. They can manage by following the social distancing, washing of hands, wearing of nose masks, and the rest. They can, but the basic level, the KG and the primary, how are they going to wear this nose mask and wash their hands? And you know this case. For instance, when one is wearing a watch, that person will say, "Oh, Akwesi, also wear my watch and see how beautiful it is." Likewise, then nose mask. When the teachers are not there, they will move in there and then exchange. Oh, wear mine and see how it is. Oh, do this and see. How are they going to cope? And even some of them are even overcrowded in the classrooms. So I think that at this moment, or maybe in June, there are some questions to be asked, but it's a good idea. So let us hope for them to bring their measures for us to see if it will help.
All right. Okay. Thanks for your contribution. Abendao, was there something you wanted to react to?
About the final years, as I did, I think I was very clear to you that those options are all available, and we are looking at all that. At the end of the day, when we've gotten all the inputs, we will put them together, form a certain opinion, and of course, in consultation with the GES Council and other governmental, the ministry, we will make a final decision on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Somebody is asking Arias, and I feel like that's not even a fair question to ask, particularly at this time when we know private school teachers, a lot of over 90,000 of them have lost their jobs and they can't even get salaries. But yeah, I mean, that's your reality. Let me move on. This one says, I think schools should remain closed. If the ban on social gatherings is lifted, this virus doesn't know anyone. This virus doesn't know. We must be patient. It's our front door. All right, so someone called China Kwamu send in this message. Kindly do not call the WhatsApp number. The number to call rather is 030221169102. Emmanuel is in Asylum Down. Emmanuel, thank you for joining us. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, you see, what some of us would suggest is that, as it's already said, when the restrictions started, it started with what? The final years were in school for at least a week or so before they were called to get back home. If the health expert thinks that it is safe, I think that it will be very appropriate for them to start with what? The final year students. That is what? The JHS 3 and the SHS 3. If all protocols are really put in place, then by so doing, it will be used as a pilot case. In this case, when you have Form 1 to 3, you could see that you can even spread them out in maybe the basic classroom, like basic 1 to 6. Then if it is SHS 3, they can spread them out in the various classrooms, at least maybe having maximum of about 15 to 20 maximum in each class, making sure that all the protocols are put in place before we try to go to school. Because as it being said, the various schools, when you go, you have 70 students sitting in one classroom. How are you going to manage that one? And I will also propose that for the younger one, especially lower primary, or if possible, the whole primary school, they shouldn't think about bringing them from the beginning. We can start with the final years, so that gradually, by God's grace, when you use that as a pilot, then we see how best they can ease it by bringing the other elderly people.
All right,
and
well
with
said.
God in our side, maybe things can work well. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Jonathan is in Obuasi. Good morning, Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello.
Yes, Jonathan, you're on air now. Let's hear you.
But one thing I want us to know, the minister just said that schools can be
Jonathan, give me a second. Hello. Please lower the volume on your television or whatever we can hear in the background. Okay, please turn down, because we can hear something in your background, and come back and speak to us when you're ready. You can send me a WhatsApp message as well. Kindly do not call the WhatsApp number. Send me a WhatsApp message with a number that will be put on your screen. My friend is just reminding me of infrastructure deficits that we have around this period. Jonathan, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, let's hear you real quick.
Yeah, the minister made a point that schools are not going to be closed forever. And I mean, imagine you being a student and staying home, not really doing active academic work. How are you going to feel? How are you going to cope? Do you understand? I think, if much possible, the final year students, the university, the AHS and the SHS should be allowed to go to school to see how these are going to cope. I mean, that can be a fundamental to study how things will be ruled out for the rest of and other people. These can be the fundamentals to have a study. Or else, students are going to stay home, academic work are going to be prolonged, other things are going to be prolonged.
Okay, all right.
As much as possible, they should bring suggestions or things in that will help school resume back to normal.
All right, Jonathan, we get your point. Thank you very much for your contribution. I wish Akosua would call us back from Wager. Akosua, particularly if you're a student, I want to hear from you. What do you think your own thoughts would be in terms of how do we progress? What will make you feel safe if you're a student? You can also reach out and share your thoughts. So let's use the rest of the time, for you to tell us, so where are we now?
You're raising the issue of infrastructure.
Infrastructure deficit, yes.
Yeah, you see, Madam, at the moment, we are not talking about new issues. We are looking at, the schools will have been running, but for COVID-19, the schools have been running. So that's the environment in which we are operating. I know, and it's a fact, that one of the massive infrastructure development of schools, especially senior high schools, is currently underway in all the senior high schools in the country. And therefore, but that's not what we are dealing with, because that was not meant for COVID-19. So what we will focus on is what do we have now, and how do we manage what we have now to ensure that the environment is safe. As I said, and as many people are saying, probably the issue of phased reopening. Some groups will come, other groups will come. Like somebody suggested, probably if the final years are allowed to go, it can be a basis for assessing how well we can manage others when they come in. How do our systems work? Because they are smaller in numbers, they are fewer, and therefore we can even use that as the basis for assessing if everybody is coming in. Those are views that we are looking at. Those are views that we are expecting the public to give us. So what I will say is that we will continue to encourage people who have ideas, who have suggestions, to come up with them. We'll put all of that together. We are open for discussion, we are open for consultation, so that we can together come up with some framework that will make our schools safer and more secure.
You must be working with some timelines.
Yes, we are looking at what we are doing. We don't know, to be honest with you, We do not know what the thoughts of the president will be on the 31st of May. We don't know. All what we are saying is that should we be directed to go back, what do we do? That's exactly what we are doing. So our view is that we'll be able to put together some tentative ideas, some clear way out by the time the president will come up with his views. Those, I'm not sure the president will come and say tomorrow, let the schools reopen. I'm sure when he comes, he will give us some benchmarks on how the schools should go back. Once we get that, then we'll begin to operationalize the ideas that we might have put together. Some of them will call for review, some of them will call for some further consultation and some further discussions. And we are open and ready to engage in that type of discussion. At the end of the day, don't forget that managers of the system also have children in the schools. They have relatives around who are teachers, who are non-teaching staff. So if they go and they also get infected, they are all in trouble. So everybody should bear in mind. The idea is for all of us to work together to ensure that we create an environment that is safe, that is secure, so that everybody can participate fully and effectively in the school system when it reopens.
So how many teachers do you have sitting at home right now not working but getting paid? And I think the focus has been put on the public teachers, particularly because we've been told that such a huge number of private teachers have lost their jobs and their daily lives.
Ghana Education Service employs in total, from its headquarters to the KG class, a population of about 340,000.
So you've been paying?
Everybody is being paid every month.
Are you thinking of slashing, cutting down, doing 30%, 50%? Are you playing with those ideas?
It has not come up.
It has not come up.
It's not come up.
Okay, all right. Okay, sir, I guess we have to leave our conversation here, but thank you very much for taking all the questions. Thank you for helping us with the conversation as well. Is there a way that people can reach formally with their, I think you said that you haven't gotten to parent yet because we're dealing with the general public in terms of soliciting for views.
We are dealing with the, as I call it, the front line. We are dealing with the front line who will be in the school environment, the teachers, the non-teaching staff, the managers or the education system. We will definitely get to the NGO, the civil society organization, the parents. Will get to everybody.
Is there an answer to when?
Oh yes, as soon as possible. In fact, what we wanted to do, let me be very honest with you, what we wanted to do was that if we had the input from our stakeholders, the front line, by close of work today. We said close of work today. If we have had them, we'll put them together and we'll have come out to those NGOs and civil society organizations as proposals from the Ghana Education Service. Can you look at it and make your comments?
Okay.
This was what we wanted to do. So it's not late. We expect we have the whole of the rest of today, which is the 19th by our original plan. We expect that by the weekend, we will have put together whatever views that we receive from them, and hopefully we will float it out to the others as to this is the position coming from within the Ghana Education Service, whether people have comments to make about them, people have ideas to share with us, and then we will continue to shape. But the point I'm making is that those ideas will not be our final position. It will be our proposals to engage for further consultation and discussion. And once we are through with that, then at least all of us will be very clear in our mind what is the way forward.
Okay.
As to the schools.
Well, some of us are hoping that what COVID has exposed us to, the realities in our educational system, the public and the private, going forward, there will be something that we will change. At least COVID should force us to change something about our educational system.
And let me be quick to say that COVID has been a blessing in disguise. It has really taught us a lot of lessons. And I'm sure that not only in education, but in all sectors of the society, all of us will need to learn, will need to adjust, will need to realize that there's much more to be done. And we are very conscious of that.
I can promise you, even if you forget it, as Ghana Education Service, we will be reminding you the place where we got to when COVID came someday, and how you struggled to even do virtual learning.
Right.
As Ghana Education Service. Well, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you for taking the time. I hope that we can do this sometime in the future.
Very well.
My guest, Anthony Boateng, Deputy Director General, Management Services, Ghana Education Service. We thank you for being on board this conversation as well. We've got the Sisala Goddess. She's the young lioness of Africa. Noella Wiyala will be our guest later this morning. But 3 people, including the driver of the DCE for Amansia South, have been shot dead, sadly, by armed robbers at Dadiase near Datano. We're going to go for more details with my colleague, Ohiming Teria. He joins us. Ohiming, good morning. This is just breaking for us. Give us more details.
Evening at about 7 p.m. when the group of armed robbers besieged the Dadiase community in the Amansia South district of the Ashanti region, and in the process started shooting sporadically at anybody that they see on site. And in the robbers succeeded in killing 3 people. They include a 60-year-old man who was shot in front of his shop, another gentleman on a motorbike, and the driver of the district chief executive for Amansia South, William Asante Bediako, who was shot in the neck through the windscreen of the vehicle. We are told, as at the time of the incident, the driver had joined the officials of the district health directorate on COVID-19 sensitization campaign at nearby Datano. So they were returning on the way when the incident occurred. The district chief executive was not on board the vehicle because at that time he had released his official vehicle for the COVID-19 education ahead of the market day today in nearby Datano.
Any arrests?
For now, nobody has been arrested in connection with the shooting incident. We have been told that the regional police command is sending a team of detectives and crime scene aspects to the scene to help in investigations. The Manso Enclave, this is not the only first time such an incident had occurred. The Manso Enclave is noted for some of these discrepancies. For instance, just 2 years ago, a police officer on board a Sprinter bus was shot to death after armed robbers, besieged the vehicle and robbed passengers of personal belongings.
All right, Ohime, we'll let you go so you can give us a lot more information later on in the day. But that's my colleague Ohime Teria. We'll be back after this breather. Stay with us. Noella Wiyala is our guest on the show later this morning.
And away from politics, she came into contact with a patient who later tested positive for coronavirus at the Bolgatanga Regional Hospital back in March this year. Now, after exhibiting symptoms of the disease days after, the head of the neonatal intensive care unit of the hospital, Dr. Gillian Bogi, had to be airlifted to the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital for critical care. 20 days after hospitalization, she is now tested negative twice and subsequently discharged. Dr. Bogi has been sharing her near-death experience exclusively with Komladom.
The publication of the new recovered numbers attracted comments from some persons who were surprised about the high recovery numbers of over 500. A special aide to former President John Mahama, Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, called for the numbers to be put to strict proof. Minority Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Al-Hassan Suhini, said the recoveries are a Ramadan miracle. But speaking on Beyond the Lockdown, Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Bernard Okuboy, stated the patients did not recover in one day.
So, if you have 1,000 folks, they are all walking around. They've had their first test, which is negative. All they are doing is that we are waiting to be tagged.
Okay.
Not that they have a problem, but they want to fit a criteria, which is that the second test must be negative. And so really, you can have 2,000 who are declared recovered. All it means is that their results went through Noguchi or the other labs, and the results are in.
Oh.
So it is not the day they declare the results that they were recovered, they actually recovered, but they were just meeting a criteria.
An article by fact-checking website AFP challenged claims that Ghana has administered more COVID-19 tests than any other country in Africa. According to AFP, available statistics they found indicate Ghana comes behind South Africa and at least 2 other African countries. Dr. Okuboy stated Ghana is part of the top.
Well, we are gone greatly into that story, and that story is about numbers of recoveries and then related issues of tests that had been done, you know, in Africa, especially based on comments by the president about how far the country has done in relation to other countries on the continent, and this had been corrected, or perhaps also put out there by AFP, a French news agency. Well, we will now have to bring our story about Dr. Bogie, who has now been declared negative and recovered from coronavirus, and sharing her experience with Komlado.
I felt I couldn't breathe very well, especially when I had coughed for a very long time. I felt I couldn't breathe very well. So I decided to check my SpO2, and it was ranging between 65 to 70% of oxygen. So initially they nebulized me, and then I was put on intranasal oxygen. The ambulance came, took me to the airstrip, and then I was airlifted to Tamale, where another flight was ready with the team waiting for me. And then I was brought to Kotoka, where there was another ambulance waiting for me. And I was brought to the medical ICU, Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Wow. Do you remember anything that happened to you when you got to the ICU, medical ICU at Kolebu?
Yes, I do remember. One thing I didn't tell you was when I started desaturating, I started writing down messages from my family. I started videoing myself, because at a point in time I gave up. I knew I have the COVID, but it was like nobody believed I had the COVID, and anything could happen at any time. So I started writing messages, and I started videoing myself, what I was going through, and then in my diary.
If you say anything could happen, you thought you were going to die?
Yes, I actually thought I was going to die. Yeah, that was what was running through. So I would just sit down and then ask myself, so what next? Then I would just say, Lord, may your will be done. That was just what was running through my head. And then they kept on monitoring. So they would come in at 6, they would come in at 10 a.m., 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and then 10 p.m. In all, I managed to get all the staffs that attended to me. 33 staffs attended to me in the medical ICU. 33, including nurses and then doctors, 33 staffs. So as I lay in there, and I started thinking, okay, so what next? All this while, my husband would call to see how I was doing. So when I told him my test results was in and I was actually positive for COVID, he was like, do you know something? Are you still on oxygen? I said, no, the oxygen has been taken away. He said, yes, that's just it. You would make it, you would pull through. God was in control and everything was going to be okay. And from the way he spoke, I could feel, I know him, I could feel he was crying, but he never, I would always see him on video when he's talking. But this particular day, he was hiding his face and then his voice was a bit shaky.
He didn't want you to see that.
Yes, but he kept on encouraging me and telling me that everything was going to be okay, everything was going to be fine. Yeah, so I spent 8 days in the medical ICU, and then later on, I was moved to fevers unit, where I spent 12 days. Then the most interesting thing I experienced during my recovery was the fact that most of the mothers whose kids passed through the newborn care unit I don't know one way or the other.
How they got to know?
They got to know that Dr. Bugui was not around and was sick and was actually having this condition. So they would call, they would call, they would call. When I don't pick, they would send me messages, and some of them went a step further by recording some of the babies trying to crawl, especially the preterm babies who went through kangaroo and were making it now, trying